Thank you to everyone who came in early. Hi, everyone. We're going to start in just a couple minutes. There's a few people who I know are still joining us. Love the music. Hi, Beryl. Yeah. Hi, Hannah. Am I visible? No, you're not visible. And you don't have to be. It's an option on this platform to have the panelists be visible, but we're not going there for this time around. Everyone can hear me, right? If you can hear me, just please say yes. I can hear you. Thanks for the ear symbol, Rachel. Hi, Rebecca. So while we're waiting, we'll give it another minute or two. While we're waiting, how's everyone feeling? Just write one word, what you're feeling. Good. Okay, good. Good is good. What else? Freedom. Ooh, I like that. Rebecca, curious. Ooh, curious is like just a good inner space to have. Okay, we're just waiting for a couple more people who are messaging me. They're just trying to log on now. Happy I connected as moving into a new house with no internet yet. Whoa. So what did you do? You, what's it called? Hotspot? Oh, you're on your phone. Okay, thank God for phones. Okay, I see a bunch of us here. Awesome. And just to know, there's almost 50 of us around the world in total taking this course. It's a small number of us who are able to tap in live. So I really do appreciate your time and your attention to tapping into these live sessions, because it gives me the energy and momentum to really show up, knowing that you're all somewhere in the world. Okay. We are just about to get started. Hi, Mayan. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Donna. Rachel, Rebecca. So fun. Hi, Elle. Where is everyone in the world? I know last week we had people from Geneva, from Mexico, South America, California, New York. Where is everyone in the world? I'm just curious. Ukraine. Wow. New Jersey, that's where I'm from. Represent, Israel. We're loving those emojis, Rach. New York, New York, New York. Love New York. Okay, wonderful. Let's get started, and whoever joins us, joins us. Okay, well, we have a super loaded session ahead of us today. So I am so grateful for those of you who are joining us live, those of you who are tapping into the recording. I'm asking that you just bring yourself to a place of authentic listening for tonight. We're gonna cover some really deep concepts, right? Last week we were kind of just like scratching the surface. We also spoke about some really deep, awesome stuff last session. But today we're gonna try to take it a little bit deeper. We're gonna go a little bit further. And so to the best of your ability, if you can just have anyone else in the home give you your privacy for the next hour, that would be awesome. I'm gonna begin by going over some theory. And then at the end, we're gonna go through an actual meditation process. So I asked everyone to bring with them a photo of themselves from when they were a baby, when they were a child. I hope everyone managed to gather their photo, because that's gonna be a big part of today's session. So we started last week by sharing a quote, an idea, which is the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves become our reality, right? So today we're going to take this idea one step further. And that one step further looks like the stories we tell ourselves, about others, and about the world or life also become our reality. Now, one of the stories that is most common amongst those of us who have blockages that are preventing us from manifesting, from attracting what it is that we want, is a story called "It Needs to Happen, and it needs to happen right now." So I call this the push pattern. It's when we push and we push and we push for something to happen, and we almost become obsessed with the end result. That we literally, because of the pushing, because of that, like, whether it's subtle or whether it's a big obsessive energy, we prevent that thing from happening because of all the pushing that we're doing, right? So if you think about it, like, everything has its due time, and we need to learn, and that's what we're gonna do. Part of what we're gonna do today is learn how to surrender, right? Because when we push, that creates a ton of resistance. And what I mean when I say the word resistance, right? Resistance is a vibrational frequency. It's an energy of obsession or anxiety, right? Like, I'm a former pusher, right? I used to push for things to happen and want to control things and want things to happen now. And that's loaded with anxiety, right? That's loaded with pressure. There's no playfulness in that, right? And last week we spoke about playful energy. I shared my coffee story, right? I woke up, I wanted coffee. I had my fresh, hot, full cup of coffee by the end of the night because I wasn't attached. I was surrendered, right? So when push comes to shove, who wants to be around pushy energy, right? Think of the pushy people in your life. Is it a pleasure to be around them? Probably not. Probably the complete opposite. People don't want to work with pushy. People don't want to marry pushy, right? Things fall apart for pushers and they don't even know why they're falling apart. So that energy, that inner space, and when I say the word inner space, which I'm gonna use a lot, I mean like on our emotional world, the space, our internal space. So that energy of let me force something to happen, let me make it happen my way, that's a blockage. That's a blockage that we're sending signals of resistance up out into the cosmos, and it's preventing what it is we want from becoming manifest, right? So when we are controlling, we're resisting and we're blocking. So there's an idea, there's a concept in psychology called accessing that place of psychological flow. The idea is called psychological flow. And this idea of psychological flow is as follows. If I can give you a visual, imagine there's two streams side by side. And in each stream, there's a raft. And one stream is going downstream. The other stream is resisting the current and going upstream, right? So if there's two rafts, one is going downstream and one is going upstream. Let's imagine that you're on one raft and then someone else is on another raft. You're on the raft going downstream. Who's going to get to their destination more quickly and with less effort? The one going downstream or the one going upstream? Comment below if you think you know the answer. Hi, everyone else who just joined us. Welcome, welcome. So if you're on the downstream, are you going to get to your destination with less effort and more quickly, or are you going to get there more quickly if you're resisting the stream? Good. Donna says down. Awesome. Cool. Downstream. Rebecca. Awesome. Yep. Down. Right. Now, why is that the case? Why is it that when we resist less, it takes less effort to get the results we want, to get to our destination? We think, human beings, we want to be able to control flow. Exactly. It's all about being in a state of psychological flow. It's when we're in that state of psychological flow that manifestation actually has the ability to show up, right? Because what we resist persists. The more we resist something, it's just going to persist in our life. It's going to keep showing up in our life as some sort of blockage. We're going to keep hitting like closed door after closed door after closed door. So it's important to learn how to just stop, take a deep breath, and access that place of psychological flow. And in order to do that, we first have to also erase some of the limiting beliefs that we have that are telling us we need to be in control. So we're going to do some of that today, right? Because pushers need to have it their way, and they need it to happen by the time they want it to happen, right? Even the thought, when I have X, Y, Z, then I'll be complete, then I'll be happy, then I'll be whole, that is resistance. That is the opposite of accessing the state of psychological flow. So we need to learn how to meditate daily on being complete now. It's not the idea, it's not that when I have that thing, then I'll be complete, but rather it's when I feel good, happy, and complete that I will have. I'll say that again. It's not that when I have that thing, then I'll be complete, but rather it's when I feel good, happy, and complete that I will have that thing, right? So it requires a paradigm shift. Now, one of the next secrets to manifestation is that we need to enter into a state of surrender, into a state of letting go of the how. What needs to happen has to happen. Remember, we said last week, the how is the creator's territory, not ours, right? The more we tell ourselves a story that something needs to happen a certain way, the more we're entering into a state of control, which is the complete opposite of surrender. Surrender and control are opposites. So the moment you feel yourself becoming controlling, simply choose surrender, right? Like, we get so caught up in our own thoughts. We complicate things. We're like, yeah, but many of you might be thinking right now, but how do I enter into a state of surrender? That sounds nice. It sounds like a nice idea, but it's really easier than you think. A lot of it comes down to pure choice. The moment you choose to surrender, all you have to do is become aware of the thoughts that keep you in a state of being in control. And then once you choose surrender, you're surrendered. Something shifts instantly, right? Like, before I met my husband, I dated and I was in long relationships, but nothing was working to get myself into a forever relationship, into a committed relationship. It was the moment that I set an intention and told God, the cosmos, that I know what it is that I want and I'm clear about my what and my why. But I let go of the how. The moment I let go of the how, that's when my husband showed up in the most unexpected of ways, right? I remember the inner space I was carrying when I finally met my husband. I could feel the shift happen. I felt the shift from I need to get married, I need to get married now, and that need to control how it was going to happen to a state of, you know what, God, you're in charge. I'm going to let you figure out the how. I surrender. And it's actually a cute story. I'll take 2-minute tangent to just go into it because I know we like stories. I was saying, do you let go of the when? So I'm a fan of giving myself due dates, right? I don't like the word deadlines. Someone recently said deadlines I don't like. So I'm taking on due dates instead of deadlines. So what I do is I set due dates for myself because I work well under pressure. Someone can't see the chat. So on the bottom of your screen, there's a black toolbar and there's a square that says chat. If you click on it, the chat should open for you. Anyways, when I give myself a due date, like I said, in our last session together, I set a clear intention that I wanted to be married by the end of May. And this was 6 months before my wedding date. I wanted to be married by the end of May, and my wedding day was May 29th, the second to last day before the end of May, right? So by giving yourself a clear due date, it becomes more real. But it's not about whether you set a date or not. It's about your inner space. It's about not being so attached to that date, because sometimes we plan and God laughs. So we can't be like manic manifestors, right? We have to just be able to set an intention and breathe through that intention, not be so attached to it. Hannah, does the chat work for you now? Just wanting to make sure. Yes, beautiful. Okay, good. So anyway, how I met my husband, long story short, I was out to lunch with a girlfriend of mine and she told me that she had a recommendation for a guy she thought that I should date. And she said his name was Brian. Brian's my husband's American name. And so I said, okay, cool. Show me his resume, his picture, something, so she shows me his website and a picture of him. And I look at the picture and I say, he seems like a really great guy. Thank you very much, but he's not my husband. I just know he's not my husband. Okay, fine. Within a matter of that same month, I had 3 more people approach me and say, I have a guy for you. His name is Brian. He lives in the community. You should meet him. And I said, thank you very much. I already got it, suggested him. I'm not interested. He's not my husband, but I hope he finds his wife. Okay, anyways, towards the end of the month, I go on a date with a guy. And it was very clear that it was just too much like brother-sister energy. We weren't meant to be. So sweet guy, a week after our date, calls me up and says, I was on a meditation retreat last week. I met a guy. I think he'd be great for you. He's got a great personality. You should give it a try. And I said, awesome. What's his name? Brian. So of course I said, all right, cosmos, God, I surrender. Clearly you're trying to tell me something and I'm just getting in the way, right? By saying, no, 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 no. I'm just getting in the way by trying to control the outcome. So anyways, long story short, I get on a call with Brian and we set up a time to meet. And when he comes to pick me up for our date, I open the front door and I remember thinking to myself, wow, you're way cuter in person than you were in your picture. Anyways, long story short, throughout the date, we come to find out that it's not the same Brian that was recommended to me originally, right? So I don't know if the 3 other Brians that were recommended to me after the first Brian was recommended is even the same Brian that I ended up marrying, right? But I remember the moment I said, I surrender, I let go, he came into my life in the most unexpected of ways. I mean, there's a much bigger story to that shortened version, but for lack of time, I just wanted to share that. So it's really what do we see here? When we're in a state of letting go, when we're in a state of surrender, that we really get to witness God's magic. We become surrounded by miracles because we allow the master artist to do his thing. And when we allow him to do his thing, we end up realizing that his ways are so much more creative than anything we could have ever come up with on our own, which should really be a big relief because it means that you don't have to figure out how every detail is going to work itself out. All you have to do is simply take one action, put one foot forward, and then the next. But no more thinking how each step is going to work itself out. Because for most of us, all of that thinking of how is loaded with a lot of doubt, insecurities, beliefs, stories of how it just can't work, the impossibility of it working. For example, I was speaking to a client of mine recently who told me that she wants to see manifested in her life partner within the year. So when I asked her, what are your beliefs around that becoming a reality, but like behind that being a possibility for you, what are your beliefs? She said, it just feels like there's so much that has to happen between now and then for that to become my reality. Right? So much has to happen was her story. Now, so much, by saying so much has to happen, you're sending a signal, right? We have like this, our thoughts are like invisible antennas, like a remote control, right? Towards a television, our antennas are like an invisible antennas that send signals up to the cosmos. And so by saying so much has to happen, what she was doing was she was sending a signal out to the cosmos that was basically saying, I don't trust that God can do anything quickly or easily, and I don't trust that God is above time. Right? There's a lot of loaded interpretation behind a lot has to happen between now and then. You know, if you think about it, when the creator created the universe, was he in a state of control? Was he in an obsessive state? Was he struggling to create the universe? No, of course not. He simply uttered the words, let there be light, and there was light. Right? If you look at a flower, if we look at nature, a flower doesn't blossom under stress. A flower blossoms simply by being in a state of being. Now, what happens to a flower when it is under stress? It dies. So the reason things don't work out for us as quickly in our physical world of humanness, right? God said, let there be light, and there was light, right? I'm not going to, it's not like, for me, that's a little bit like impossible in a way, right? I'm not going to say, let there be darkness, and then there's darkness, right? So why don't things work out for us as quickly in our physical world of humanness? It's because God hides himself behind and within physicality in order for us to strive. It's our work. This is where we come in. It's our job to strive to see past the static form of this world and to put on our manifestation goggles and to realize that we too can live in a world above nature if we choose to do so. Right? Our holy sages say that we are lemala min hateva, which means that we're above. It translates from Hebrew to English. It means that we are above nature, meaning we're not bound by nature unless we choose to be bound by nature. Right? Our sages, they used to be able to expand time and space. It says that the Baal Shem Tov was able to think something and it would manifest. There was no lag time in between thought and manifestation. You know, our sages also teach another thing that I love is Ein Mazal leIsrael, which means that the people of Israel don't live in a world ruled by luck. There's no such thing as luck. We're not slaves to circumstance, but rather we can realign our stars and create circumstance. And that's pretty miraculous. That is the consciousness of manifestation, right? So we're talking about control versus surrender today because I think that this idea of control is universal in all human beings. It's something that we all struggle with. It's a pattern that creates a blockage in the natural flow of the universe, right? A flower just blossoms. A flower doesn't have to struggle to blossom. So, let's talk about the why for a second. Why do human beings feel a need to control? Let me ask you, why do you think human beings feel a need to control? Let's hear what you guys think. Why is it that human beings want to control things? Whatever you think, just share on the group chat. Totally fear. Yeah. Lack of trust. 100%. Lack of trust. Order creates a faulty perception of peace of mind. That's deep. That's very deep. It goes back to the story of Gan Eden, right? If we don't, who will? Man, I love that. Right. Okay, awesome. All valid and good answers. So, it's really like fear, it's very fear-based, right? Because the unknown is scary and control keeps us in the know. When we know what's going on, we have control. When we don't know what's going on, it brings up fear. When we don't know how something is going to happen, we feel like sometimes like the ground has been removed from right under us. When we're trying to control, we're trying to make things happen in the way that we want them to, by the exact specific time that we want them to happen, right? We become afraid of change. But the moment we realize that change is the only thing that's permanent, right? Seasons come and seasons go. We come, we go. The more we realize that change, we're constantly from womb, literally a mother's womb, to world, from baby state to toddler state, to teenage state, to adult state, from preschool to kindergarten. Change is the only thing that's permanent. And the more we can let this idea settle inside of us, the more we become a little bit more comfortable with the idea of the unknown, right? And this whole thing around fear, just a little bit of a side tangent for a second. I think we become more comfortable with fear in general when we're able to feel the fear and do something anyways. You'll hear a lot of self-help gurus and coaches say, release the fear, drop the fear, let go of the fear. I don't even know what that means, because as human beings, fear is a very real, very visceral experience. I remember the first time I ever gave a big public speech. I was like 20 years old. It was a high school in New York City, and it was like a massive, massive audience. And I was backstage, and I was convincing myself that I was getting sick because I was so nervous. I was so, and of course, when you convince yourself that you're getting sick, then all of a sudden your palms start to sweat, your face turns red, your heartbeat speeds up, right? It's a psychophysiological response. You think something and the body responds. And I remember getting so nervous that I was convincing myself I was getting sick. I think I was actually getting sick because my mind thought I'm sick. And then because I thought I'm getting sick, it was a justification, an excuse for me to say, you know what, forget it. I don't want to perform while I'm sick. I'm going to waste all these people's time. I should leave. I should make an excuse. Maybe it's not too late. I know I have to be out in 1 minute. Maybe I can run. And next thing you know, the director of the performance, he grabs me and he says, you're on. And he like throws me on the stage, and all of a sudden you hear just cheering from hundreds of people. And I just like did my thing. Like the moment you go from one state to another, you're just like, you're forced to perform, because all of a sudden the fear subsided and I was just in go mode, right? Surrender mode. But the idea is not to drop the fear. The idea is to feel the fear and do it anyways. And the same goes with this idea of the unknown, right? If we can hop into the unknown, even though it's scary, we end up becoming a part of the very few percentage of people on planet Earth who actually achieve a huge level of success. Okay. So I feel like we've spent a good chunk of time talking about surrender versus control. I want us to shift gears for a moment, and we'll come back to this idea at the end, but I want us to talk about something that I call the 4 identities, right? So there are 4 identities that are constantly running the background music of our lives. And I'll go ahead and define what these 4 identities are in a second. But these 4 identities are constantly running the background music of our lives. And in many cases, we're unaware of the beliefs and stories we have that are sabotaging us from experiencing happiness, joy, and fulfillment. So by diving into these 4 identities a little, we aim to discover and uncover the hidden beliefs that you have about you that are blocking miracles from happening constantly. So I'm going to share my screen with everyone, just so for those of you who like to take notes, but don't worry, I'm going to share these 4 identities on the actual private Facebook group. So give me a second here. I just want you to be able to see it because some of us are more visual. So here we go. Okay, everyone should be able to see my screen. And so here we have these 4 identities that I said, they run our lives. And most of us, many of the times, we're not even aware how these 4 identities are running our lives. So let's go through them one by one, right? Identity number 1. And when I say identity, it's because we use these 4 different images to define who we are, for better or worse. So identity, image number 1 is inner image, which are all of the cognitions, or another word for cognition is ideas or beliefs that I have about me, meaning it's all the things I think about myself. Like I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not talented or smart, I'm not lovable. You know, there's also positive inner images. I might think I'm confident, I'm super lovable, I'm cute, whatever it is, but it's all the cognitions and ideas that I have about me, right? Then there's outer image, which are all of the ideas and beliefs, the cognitions that I want others to have about me. So our outer image is what I'm projecting externally to the world, meaning I want the world to see me as capable, as confident, as successful, as attractive, lovable, whatever I'm projecting to the world, that's my outer image. It's what I want others to believe about me. Then there's others' image. And don't worry about like memorizing all of this right now. Side note, don't worry about memorizing all this right now. We're going to go into this in more detail in the group chat outside of today's session. So okay, so others' image are all the cognitions or the ideas, the beliefs that others actually have about me, right? It's what people actually think. You know, think about the person who you meet who's like super duper confident. Like they're exerting so much confidence, but you can really tell that deep down that exertion of confidence is a compensation. It's them hiding an inner lack of confidence. Right? So if you see their lack of confidence, it's how you perceive them. That's others' image. It's how other people are actually perceiving you. And a lot of the times we're not even aware how others are actually perceiving us, because it really takes some courage to ask them, you know, how do you see me through your eyes? Yeah? There's a quote that I love. It goes, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I'm who I think you think I am. Right? I'll say it again more slowly. I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I'm who I think you think I am. Right? So I'll write that in the Facebook group also for those of you who kind of want to dissect that a little bit further. And then we have our 4th image, which is world and life image, which are all of the ideas, cognitions, beliefs, stories that I have about life and the world, right? So, you know, we all remember my Tommy story from our last session, right? My first heartbreak ever, 8 years old, boy taps me on the shoulder. He looks me in the eyes and he says, Ayelet, I don't like you, not even a little bit. Matter of fact, I don't like you at all. You need to get that through your thick head. Verbatim, those were the words he said. And of course, I ran to the bathroom and I cried and I cried and I cried. Right? So what was my inner image? What were all the ideas and beliefs that I had about me at the time? I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty. I started comparing myself to other people, right? What was the outer image that I wanted the world to see? I wanted to see a girl. I wanted everyone else to see a girl who was lovable. who was worthy of being loved, right? But what was others' image? It could be that I was sabotaging relationships because when I started dating as a teenager, I brought all my insecurities from my 8-year-old experience into my teenage years. And so what other people were seeing were those insecurities, perhaps, right? And then, of course, at the time, at 8 years old, I also created a world or life image, which is a generalization about the world or life or groups of people, right? Like my image, the cognition that I created at 8 years old about all boys, like 8-year-old Ayelet, then thought all boys were not trustworthy, let's say, right? Or all boys break hearts. Yeah. So we're going to dive more deeply into these images. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen for a second. Okay. So why am I sharing these 4 images with you, right? It goes back to how we started today's session, which is the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves and the stories we tell ourselves about others and about life become our reality, right? So it's not just the stories I tell myself about myself. It's also the stories I'm telling myself about what it is that I want to see manifest. If I'm telling myself, and usually these images, these identities, they're stories that are downloaded into us from childhood. We weren't born with negative beliefs. Like I said, we come into the world, we're a blank slate, and we just adopt and borrow all of these ideas and beliefs from the people around us. So it's time to give it back. It's time to give the ideas and beliefs that aren't serving us back where they came from. Because at the end of the day, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right, right? Think about that. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. So if you're telling yourself over and over and over that you're not capable of achieving something, you're right. It's not going to happen. I had a client last night who we were talking about the next step. She wants to quit her job. And she works for the government. She works for the government, and she said to me that she had a cognition because I asked her, okay, what are the next steps? She wants to get into translating. And so I asked her, what are the next steps? And she said, ugh, what do you mean next steps? Life is just a struggle. Everything's a struggle. Things are just difficult. Things are just hard. I have to work really hard to make something happen, right? So if she's telling herself over and over again that life is a struggle, then what's going to manifest? A very difficult life. So we have to be careful the words that we're telling ourselves, not just about ourselves, but also about life. I want to show you a short video. So I'm going to share the screen again that I really thought it's the point that I'm trying to make. In the meanwhile, is this all making sense so far? If it's making sense, just check in with me because normally I'm used to doing this in person. So if it's making sense, just let me know. Yeah, yes, I got a yes exclamation. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, good. Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's very validating. 100%. Woo! Not even 99? Okay, that's good. Okay, cool. So let me share my screen with you again. So before I share my screen, there was a study done by Dr. Emoto. He's an Asian doctor who he took 3 glasses of water and he put them in 3 separate rooms and he uttered different words to each glass of water. Maybe some of you already know this study. In one room, he took the glass and he was uttering words of love and affirmation. I love you, you're beautiful. In the second room, he was yelling at the glass of water. I hate you, you're terrible, you destroyed my life. And in the third room, he just left the glass of water alone. And this is what happened. So here we see Dr. Emoto exposed music, words spoken, words typed, pictures and videos to water after it was crystallized. The water's response was truly majestic. So what he did was, after he uttered these words to the water, he put the water under the molecules under a microscope, and this is what he found. Okay. So we see here the power of words. And if our body is made up of at least 60% water, we can only imagine how impactful the words that we're telling ourselves about ourselves, how it's creating a certain reality, even just physiologically, right? You know, I love neuroplasticity, like the subject of neuroplasticity, because I really know that when it comes to neuroplasticity, the brain can literally restructure itself, right? Neural pathways of beliefs get wired and manifest as behaviors, right? If you think about like someone who's addicted to smoking cigarettes, let's say, there's something that happens, there's a neural pathway that gets formed the moment they pick up their first cigarette. And then the moment they pick up their second cigarette, that neural pathway just gets thicker and stronger. Third cigarette, neural pathway gets thicker and stronger and thicker and stronger, and so on and so forth. So what I love about the brain, and it's not only its complexity, but also its simplicity in a way, is its ability to regenerate. Meaning we have the power to take certain neural pathways that have been formed and we can totally redirect them to have a completely different effect on our lives, on our ability to manifest. right? So neural pathways of beliefs get wired and manifest as behaviors. So if I believe that I'm not lovable, I'm going to behave as though I'm not lovable, whether I'm aware of it or not. It could be that my outer image is projecting someone who I think is lovable, but others are seeing that she's just putting up a strong front. She's just acting tough. Therefore, I'm going to manifest a partner who is incapable of loving me, right? So we have the ability to change and restructure our neurology, our subconscious mind. I don't know if any of you ever like had the opportunity to like hold a human brain, but the brain is more like Play-Doh than it is like a rock, right? It's more malleable. It's not like a rock. You know, the neural pathways can be changed. Without getting too deep into it, I could talk about this stuff for hours, but it can be changed. So okay, what this all comes down to, why are we doing this work? Because as kids, like our brain is just pure potential, pure possibility. Our imaginations ran wild. We could become whatever we wanted to be as children. The moment we put on that princess dress or that Superman costume, we became that princess. We became that Superman, right? It's until our society, our teachers, our parents, our friends, we're not blaming them, but it's until someone told us, wake up and face reality, that we stopped believing. So the work that we're doing here is not for the purpose of facing reality. It's to create reality. It's not for the purpose of facing reality. It's to create reality, right? The Zohar says that if you want to create reality, you have to say what it is you want. Abracadabra, it shall be created in my speech. Say what you want, say how badly you want it and why you want it. Right? The Zohar is saying that God wants you to speak to him, to speak out loud, declare what it is you want, to become a co-creator. Right? And there might be some of you who are watching who are telling yourselves a story like, all right, this all sounds really good, Ayelet, but it's a little too good to be true. Or this manifestation stuff sounds too easy. If you're telling yourself this story, notice that that is a blockage. That is a belief. Right? It's a life image. It's a story you're telling yourself as a result, perhaps, of a childhood experience that was challenging for you, or maybe you didn't accomplish something, maybe you failed at something. And so that disappointment from childhood planted the belief into your subconscious mind that life is hard and things don't work out the way you want them to, or you have to struggle to succeed. Right? I'm sure we've all heard the phrase, money doesn't grow on trees, right? Now, if you were to ask different people what that means to them, you'll get a bunch of different responses. For some people, they'll say, and this is really just a belief we also adopted from childhood, money doesn't grow on trees. It's a mindset. For some people, money doesn't grow on trees means that you have to work really, really hard and struggle to make ends meet, and money doesn't come easily. Right? To other people, they might see it as, well, if you think about it, money's made out of paper and paper comes from trees, therefore money grows on trees. Right? It's a mindset. It's a choice. You're either living in a world of possibility. You're either living in a world that's beyond nature, or you're choosing to live in a world where you're trapped within the bounds of physicality. The choice is yours. Now, I'm not saying that success doesn't take work. But work and struggle don't have to coexist, right? I'm working right now as we speak. This is my work, but I'm having a blast. Yeah, so let us get a little familiar with the stories that we adopted as children, because we can't move forward into the future and recreate our future until we learn how to rewrite our past. So let me clarify, right? If there was a part of you that had an experience that made you feel powerless or fearful as a child, or as a teenager, or someone in your 20s, if you felt powerless in your past or incapable in your past, you will feel powerless in your future and incapable in your future, right? The past and the future, they're part of the same DNA of existence. And so we're made to think that we can't change our past, but in reality, we can, because there are the facts, and then there's the story we tell ourselves about the facts, right? Tommy tapped me on my shoulder and he said he didn't like me. That was a fact. That happened. But my story, my interpretation, the meaning that I infused into that experience, which is I'm not lovable, I'm not pretty, I'm not ever going to be loved, that all can be rewritten. And when we rewrite our past, our entire future begins to look totally different. Right? So, you know, people are constantly going to these like personal development workshops and they're trying to rewrite their futures, but they don't realize that while they're trying so hard, they're carrying these heavy bags of bricks from their past. So we need to learn how to actually put that bag of bricks down once and for all. You know, when my life seems to appear like a struggle, I simply just stop and I tell myself, girl, put that bag of bricks down. Because if life is starting to feel like a struggle, and it happens to the best of us, right? Life gets tough sometimes. But all it really requires, if I'm in that struggle, if I'm in that resistance, if I'm going upstream, it just means that I'm in a vibrational frequency of resistance and I need to stop and choose psychological flow. Stop and choose psychological flow. And I get it. This is a lot of work to do, you know, or to like, it's not easy to switch the way we think overnight. But if we start rewiring our neurology now, by doing certain exercises now, you'll see in no time how your external reality will begin to be a world of miracles. You know, so tell yourself constantly, girl or guy, put that bag of bricks down. If you want to be successful, you can. If you want to find your soulmate, you can. If you want to attract wealth, if you want to overcome physical pain in your body, you can. And the solution to making it a possibility, a reality, exists within the four walls right here of our brain. Right? So before we jump into how to create our future, we have to become aware of the sabotaging thoughts, our bag of bricks that are weighing us down. So here's where we jump into the exercise part of today's session. I want everyone, I hope you all brought your picture with you, pen and paper. Let's take a moment and write down just 3 limiting beliefs that you have about you. It could be, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not lovable, right? Whatever it is, take a minute or two to just write down 3 thoughts, limiting beliefs that you carry with you throughout your adult life. And begin. And if anyone is brave enough to share with the group, then please feel free to comment on the group. Once we get it out in the open, also, it's almost like it's not inside of us anymore. We're giving it back to the universe. So feel free to share what yours are, but if it's personal, I understand also. Once you've written what your 3 beliefs are, just write done in the chat box so that I know to continue. Not good enough, that's a big one. I don't know what I'm doing. I have to go through darkness to get light. Wow. Amazing. And we all share a lot of these limiting beliefs. Not smart enough. Unloved. Rejected is a big one, right? That was my 8-year-old story. Does anyone need more time to write their 3 down? There's something wrong with me. Does anyone need more time? I will starve as an artist. That's a story. It's definitely a story. Not smart enough. Also a story. Amazing. Nobody will love me because I'm too creative. Yeah, that's a definitely like I think more of like a feminine story that we tell ourselves, right? My dreams are too big and I don't know how to get there. So the how in that story I'm hearing. Okay, let us continue on to the next step. Okay, so now that we've written the 3 down, it's important to understand, right? There's the belief and then there's the emotion behind the belief. So I want us to take another minute to write down the feeling that is hidden inside of that belief. For example, for me, it might be that my Tommy experience, it was my first heartbreak, and I created the belief, the story that I'm not lovable. So the emotion behind I'm not lovable would be, there could be a few. It could be pain, sadness, anger, fear, rejection, whatever it is, take a minute to write down the emotion that is behind your story. So let's say your story is I'm not good enough. Just ask yourself, how does I'm not good enough make me feel? Is it angry, sad, scared? So take a minute to write down the emotion behind that's hidden within that story. And again, if you're courageous to share what that feeling is with the group, then please share in the chat. Sad, upset, frustrated, vulnerable. Whew, that's a big one. Anxiety, sadness. My scared, vulnerable, sad, frustrated. Yeah. Donna, sad, fear, anger. You guys are so good at this. And once you're done, just type done so we can move on to the next step. That was fast. Okay. Okay. Okay, so it's important to note and to realize that for many of us, the human experience is that we take these painful, uncomfortable emotions and we tend to shame them. We're actually ashamed of our own emotions, right? I mean, I can speak for myself. Sometimes I don't like myself when I'm feeling scared or angry or reactive, right? It makes me feel like childish. It makes me feel like a kid again, right? That's why some people, when they see a whining child or a child who's like being demanding, they get really triggered when they see a child like this because it reminds us of ourselves. And truth is, we're not so far away from that, right? We all have an inner 5-year-old when inside of us, a little tiny mini version of ourselves that's still a child that comes out. And when we are in a state of powerlessness or in a negative experience internally, all that is our inner 5-year-old that's inside all of us screaming and begging for attention, right? I'm not a fan of shaming our emotions. A little bit of like internal family systems therapy says that we are not just one type of person. We're not either really confident or insecure. We're not either really strong or really weak. That we're this like dynamic organism with so many parts, and different parts come up all the time. So it's up to us to learn how to have a relationship with all of our parts, not just the parts that are lovable, but the parts that are also not so lovable in our opinion, right? Like, why do you think it is that when a child is screaming, like screaming, and the parents say something like, shut up, or stop it, or sit down, why is it that the child doesn't stop? It's because shut up and stop it are not the type of attention that the child wants. In that moment, that child is asking for connection, right? And same thing goes for the inner 5-year-old, the inner child inside each and every single one of us. When we're feeling like we're nagging or we're needy or we're demanding, it's simply an expression of our own child's inner needs not being met. We need to learn how to meet those needs. We need to learn how to reparent, how to reconnect with all of our parts, right? So I call my negative emotions, I give them names, I give them characters, because that's how I build a relationship with them. So I call my negative emotions my class clowns, right? So when I was living in New York City, I had a part-time job as a Hebrew school teacher, an after-school program, and I taught 8-year-olds. And there was this one kid in the class, Ricky, who he always acted up. He was always trying to make jokes and trying to get the kids to like get all wild. And when he was quiet, the class was delicious. They were beautiful. Like they were well behaved. I was able to teach. I all of a sudden became a star teacher when everyone was behaved. And then the moment Ricky would act up, I was the worst teacher in the world because I didn't know how to calm the rest of the class. And so when Ricky would act up, you know, at the beginning I said, let me just ignore him. Maybe if I ignore him, he'll stop. But the opposite would happen. The more I would ignore him, the louder and more wild he would get. So I said to myself, Ayala, you need to change strategy because ignoring this class clown is not working. So I shifted and I started to give him love and connection and attention. And what I used to do is in the middle of the class, I used to say, when he would get wild, I'd say, Ricky, come here and give me a hug. Come give me a hug. And he'd get up, he'd give me a hug. You know, the class would giggle a little and he'd sit down and he'd be quiet. And it worked like magic every single time, right? We need to learn how to do the same things with our painful emotions, with our class clowns, with the emotions that we don't love about ourselves. Instead of shaming, you know, I call these painful emotions my inner exiles. Because when we're shaming an emotion, all we're doing is we're simply putting a very real part of ourself, our feelings, into exile. When all that part really wants and wanted all along was connection, was some love. So it's time to learn how to reconnect with ourselves again. So real quick, how does this tie in with the idea of surrender versus control, which is where we started? See, when we're being pushy or needy or controlling or obsessive, we need to recognize that it's just coming from an unmet desire to connect. It's coming from a desire to reconnect with ourselves, to connect to the parts of us that we've exiled, that we've shamed, that we've locked into the basement. It's an unmet desire to give love and to be loved. Okay, so I feel like I've said a lot. So we're going to jump into the processing phase of today's session. So I want everyone to have their childhood photo ready with them. And I hope that everybody's in a quiet room. There's no distraction because we're going to be closing our eyes and going inward, right? In order to heal it, we need to feel it, even if it means being a little bit uncomfortable, right? So it's about being okay with the discomfort. Discomfort is just another class clown. So it's just go into the discomfort. We need to feel it to heal it. So I'm going to ask everybody to gently close their eyes. And let's all take a collective deep breath together. Inhale all the air in, deep breath in. And deep breath out. And deep breath in. And deep breath out. and begin to visualize yourself in front of a big wooden door. And this door is the entrance to a basement. And you are the only person with the key to this basement. And so you choose to go in. You take the key, visualize yourself, feel it, see it. You take the key and you unlock the door. And you see these old creaky wooden steps leading down towards a dark basement. And you begin to make your way down one step at a time. You feel the wooden banister. You can hear the creaks of each step you take. And above your head, midway down the steps, you see a light bulb above you with a string. So you pull down the string and turn on the lights, and you notice in the far corner of the room is you at 5 years old, sitting there on a wooden chair facing the wall. So you continue to descend down the steps and notice what you're feeling, notice what you're experiencing as you make your way down the stairs and you begin to approach you at 5 years old. Notice what 5-year-old you is feeling, what 5-year-old you is experiencing, knowing that you're in the room. And you notice that there's a wooden chair next to 5-year-old you. So you choose to sit in that chair next to 5-year-old you. And the two of you are just sitting there in silence together. And you ask 5-year-old you if it's safe and if it's okay to rebuild your relationship. You tell her you want a new connection. And just notice if she says yes. Notice what she's experiencing. She might be resistant because all these years we've shamed our 5-year-olds. We've put him or her in the basement. We've exiled him or her. So just notice what it feels like to even accept that you're willing and wanting to renew this relationship with this part of you. And adult you asks 5-year-old you if it's okay to hold their hand. And see what they say. Do they say yes? Are they hesitant? Just witness, just watch without judgment. And notice how 5-year-old you begins to warm up and begins to trust and open up to you. And they feel your sincerity. They feel the authenticity. They see that you're really ready and willing to take them out of shame, to take them out of exile. So you ask 5-year-old you if it's okay to give them a hug. And if they say yes, go ahead and give that part of you a hug. And really be in that hug, be in that embrace. What are you experiencing? What is your inner 5-year-old experiencing? And set an intention right here, right now, in this connection with all of your parts. Set the intention to be accepting, loving, and welcoming of all of your parts. And let's go ahead and take a deep breath in. And exhale all the air out. And I want you to gently flutter your eyes open and gaze into the picture of you as a baby or a child. And really feel what you're feeling. Let the emotions come up. And gaze into this picture. Feel what you're feeling. Be with that child. And as you're gazing and viscerally feeling into this photo, we're going to do a short mantra meditation. It's of Hawaiian descent called Ho'oponopono. And just repeat in your head or out loud with me the words, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you can be here for a moment, take it in. And now tell adult you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Maybe put your hands on your heart if it feels good. Maybe close your eyes, notice what you're feeling, notice any shift, notice any vibrational change, any energetic change. And with that, we come to the end of today's session. So for those of you who are still in the experience, in the meditation, you can stay here for as long as you'd like. And for the rest of you, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I had so much fun. If you have any questions, remember, direct all your questions to the Facebook group. I'll try to get to all of them to the best of my ability. And I'm happy to hear about your experiences. So please share on the Facebook group with all of us what you experienced tonight, what your biggest takeaway was. And I can't wait for next week. Kisses. Have a good one. You're welcome. The homework will be posted on the Facebook group.